You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
Well, hello, this is Henry Olonga, and I used to play cricket for Zimbabwe many years ago. Feels like almost a quarter of a century ago. I was a fast bowler and had a career that lasted from 95 through to 2003, and kind of left the game under a bit of a cloud, which we'll probably discuss today on the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast.
Now, Henry,
my battery's about to die, mate. I'm so sorry. My battery's about to die. On my phone, because things off my phone.
We'll push on, Henry, and we'll get
I think we need to wrap it up before it dies.
And hope that your battery survives. So let's make sure that we can get it done before your phone or your computer dies. So that's the talking about yourself bit done, Henry. So let's get into this cricket discussion. I chose some topics to talk about and discuss with you very quickly because your battery is soon failing you. So the first of the topics, Henry, is Test cricket. And we've spoken a little bit about that in our chat today and seen that you've played Test cricket, you've been there, you've done it. How would you assess the current state of Test cricket now? And where do you see it going into the future, Henry? So your thoughts on that?
Oh, this is an interesting one. I think it's very healthy with the top teams. So obviously when Australia play India, or England play India, or India plays England, if the top three sides play against each other, it's definitely top draw. It's box office entertainment. And I reckon if India were to announce they were coming on tour next year in June, not that that would happen, but I suspect the tickets would be sold out in 1 hour. That's how big the big three are. But I fear for the lower sort of tiers of Test cricket, and I think we're losing some good sides. So Zimbabwe, of course, are not at their best. West Indies not at their best. Sri Lanka struggling. Of course, I should throw South Africa into the top tier because they just won the World Test Championship. So they're a team on the rise and starting to have belief and starting to do really well against Australia in particular. And I think you can also throw New Zealand into the sort of top five. But I think the ICC has got an issue with that lower sort of tier. And I do see in the end them having to say, right, we're going to have two levels of cricket. And I think if they do that, they should indeed have promotion and relegation, just as they do in, say, the EPL in soccer in England. I think that's fair enough, isn't it? You should have an incentive to stay, and you should have an incentive to be promoted. I don't think it should just be like, oh, we'll have a look every 2 years. No, I think they should do it every championship cycle, which may be 2 years after all. I don't know. Anyway, the point is they should relegate and promote accordingly. So I think I don't think they need to tweak anything else with cricket. I think there been too many tweaks in like one-day cricket. We're going to have two balls, one from this end, one from that end. They've tweaked so much. Now they've just tweaked the way you can take a catch. Remember Michael Neser bunny hopping on the boundary? Well, that's outlawed now. You can't do that anymore. They're always tweaking little things, and I think at some point you just got to stop with the tweaks. But I think Test cricket's very healthy if it's a like-for-like competition. But if Australia's playing Zimbabwe, you just know it's a mismatch. And I don't think that's good for cricket. I don't think the punters will come along and pay for tickets to watch that. But I think Ireland versus Zimbabwe, yeah, that's interesting. Afghanistan versus Zimbabwe, yeah. I'd watch that, because I know it's going to probably go 5 days. And so more power to Test cricket. I think it's got a healthy future. One-day cricket, not so sure. It's kind of the spare wheel now, isn't it? It's almost too long. It's still got those sort of dead sort of spots in the middle. The sort of from 50 overs all the way through to 35. It's still a bit in the air. They try to tweak it with power plays and stuff. But the future's in T20. So I think Test cricket is lovely for the diehards, but it does ask a lot of you in a time-poor world. 5 days in a row, go to the ground or watch it on TV. Unless you've got it in the background with Test Match Special, for example, it's quite a commitment, Test cricket. So, but it's like a rare banquet. You don't have it every day, so you can enjoy taking 5 days off work and enjoying it. But T20 is healthy. One day is not so sure. But we've been saying that for a while. So let's see what happens in the next decade.
Yeah. Good to hear your thoughts on Test cricket there, Henry. So thanks for that. Henry, let's talk about Zimbabwe cricket for our last topic. How would you assess the current state of Zimbabwe cricket, and where do you see Zimbabwe going into the future? Having played for Zimbabwe in your time, and obviously watching them from afar, what are your thoughts on that, Henry? How do you see their future?
Well, I think the top players need to stand up a bit more. So, you've got they've got the chronic problem of never scoring enough runs as a batting side. If we're looking at Test cricket, and you have to score at least 250, 300 to be competitive in a Test match. 500 if you want to win it, but at least 350 to just be competitive. And we haven't really done that in the last few matches that Zimbabwe played. So I think they need to do that. As far as T20s go, they're competitive. They just beat Sri Lanka recently in a T20 match. They bowled them up for 80, and then got the runs. But T20 is like that, isn't it? That's the exciting thing about T20. Any team can do well on the day and win against any other team. I hope that the administration in Zimbabwe does what's right for the game, reinvests in the game. I mean, like one of the most disappointing things for me was watching the recent matches at Harare Sports Club and also with Queen, and seeing that very little had changed since I was there a few years ago. Very little development of the grounds. I don't know what that says. I don't know where the money's going. They get millions of dollars every Test cycle, every World Cup cycle as well. And I just don't see it going back into the infrastructure and into the way the game's run. And I know it's expensive to host tours, but I just don't know. After 22 years, I should be seeing more, and I'm just not. And I hope that eventually they won't have this bloated wage bill that goes to places it shouldn't go to.
Thanks, Henry, for offering your thoughts on Zimbabwe cricket there. I know you care deeply about Zimbabwe cricket, even though with all what's happened in your career and the fallout from the Black Armband Protest and the relationship that you've had with Zimbabwe and cricket. But you still have a soft spot for them, and you want to see them do well, hopefully, and play in tournaments, do well in World Cups, T20 World Cups, and Test cricket, ODIs and T20s, and just give their best every single game they play. And hopefully the nation will be proud of them as well. So I think
one of the things Zimbabwe was known for was being fighters. We had to work really hard to do well. We fielded very well. We punched above our weight. That we were always known as underdogs for a lot of the matches we played, but we had success, which means we had a bit of grit. And so, yes, just to agree with you, I do wish them well. I know some of the players, like Irvine. I played with Sean, Craig Irvine's older brother, and I played. Obviously, Kevin Curran was my coach, and his son Ben is playing for Zimbabwe. And I also played with Brendan Taylor towards the end of my career. I don't think I ever played with him in a match. He was much younger than me, but I played with him at the last year's World 11 as well. And so he's back in the fold. And I really wish them well. They've got some good players. They've got some good players. They've got Ngarava, the big, tall left armer. They've got Blessing Muzaravani, who's a really promising talent. He really looks to me like he's got the goods. And they've got enough. They've got enough in the batting. They've also got Sikandar Raza, who's an exciting T20 player. I just think they've got enough. It's just about the belief now. They need to get some performances under their belt, and then we'll see them back where they belong, which is, at least competing with the top 8 sides. At least having it out with them, and it'll put a smile on my face when they get back to that level of cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone wants to see Zimbabwe do well, because in your time they did do well. They had great players and performed well at World Cups, 99, 2003 as an example. Did well in Test cricket, as we've mentioned in our chat today, Henry, reminiscing about your Test career. So there is potential there. You can see that, and many people can see the players they've got at the moment. It's just about trying to get the self-belief up and trying to really nail down the skills of batting, bowling and fielding, and hopefully competing with the top nations in Test cricket. So let's hope that's the case. So once again, thank you, Henry, for sharing your thoughts on Zimbabwe cricket there. Henry, well, I thought to end our discussion today, it's been a marathon, but I've enjoyed it immensely. I thought I ask our listeners to send in some questions for you to answer, and I'm sure you'll answer them to the best of your ability. There's some really good questions here. And
I will.
I know you will, Henry. You give very good answers, as we've seen in this interview today. Very well spoken. So some very good questions for you to ask from our listeners to have your thoughts on. So we'll start off with the first listeners' questions, Henry. And this one comes from a very good friend of the podcast, Jihan, and Patreon member. So thank you, Jihan. He always has great questions here. He's asked you 4 separate questions, Henry. So
okay, let's do them one at a time then.
We'll do them one at a time, and we'll get through them the best we can. So Jihan's first question to you, Henry, is, Hi, Henry. My name's Jihan. I grew up in England, but moved to Australia in my mid-20s, partly because I've been a lifelong fan of the Australian cricket team. I wanted to ask you if you
Stop. Wait. He moved to Australia partly because he's been a lifelong fan of the Australian cricket team?
Yes. That's
my gosh, he's a proper cricket fan.
Yes, he is.
Emigrating to a country just because you love cricket. Okay, carry on. Sorry for interrupting. That is amazing.
No, that's all right. I wanted to ask you, happened to remember meeting me and my older brother back in December of 2004 on a flight to Sydney. It was my first time visiting Australia, and I was a pretty excited 16-year-old. You ended up sitting next to my brother, and you had a long chat about cricket and politics. Does that ring any bells?
Oh, heck no, Jack. That's 21 years ago. There is no way that I would remember that.
Well, I suppose it's one of those things, isn't it?
Thanks for bringing it up.
With fans and
that's just. I must apologize to him. There's just no ways I would remember that. I hardly remember coming back to this country in 2004. I got married to Tara in 2004 here in Australia, and then I went back to England. So I can't even remember being in Sydney. But it's possible I went to visit my mom. I don't know. He's really stretching me here. So the first answer to the first question is I haven't a clue what he's talking about, Jack. But I'm sure it happened. That is more on me than on him. I just can't remember.
As I said before, Henry, it's one of those things when you're a celebrity or something, you have these encounters with fans and you don't really remember afterwards. So,
but I want to say, I'm pleased I met him, and I'm pleased that our interaction was a positive one, and he's got good memories about it.
Yes, obviously him and his brother, and they had a good experience. Yeah. That's the main thing.
Yeah, so good on you, Jehan.
20 odd years later. So the second question that his son has asked you, Henry, I first got into cricket in the late 90s, and I was immediately drawn to Australia and the West Indies. I can remember watching Zimbabwe playing in the West Indies in 2000, and were on their way to beating them in the first Test match. I recall an Andy Flower 100 and the match being Chris Gale's debut. Only set 99 to win in the fourth innings, Zimbabwe collapsed in a heap to 60-odd all out after dominating the match. Do you recall that match, and were you playing?
Do I recall that match? What kind of question is that? I was there, buddy. I write about it in my audiobook, don't I?
Yes, you did.
It is probably single-handedly the most disappointing that I've ever been on a cricket field, because it would have meant so much for Zimbabwe to get those runs. We actually thought we had a chance. We just didn't realize how badly the wicket would play on that last day. It had cracks opening up, and it was single-handedly the most disappointing day I've had in the Test match. So, suffice to say, I was very sad that day because of what could have been. Yes, I played in the match. I actually did all right. I think I took 3 wickets in the one innings. Heat Streak he took 5. We did so well in that match. We did all the hard work, but we couldn't get it home, and that's just the great sadness for us.
Yes. Well, I hope that's to your satisfaction there, Jihan. And correct me if I'm wrong, Henry.
Yeah, you talk about sessions and winning sessions in matches. Yeah. I reckon we won most of the sessions except for that last one.
Yeah. I was just looking at your stats there. You took 6 wickets in 2 Test matches in the West Indies in that series in 2000. Your best was 3.
I think I took 3 in that one. Yeah. So sad. Anyway.
Yeah. I suppose that's cricket. You have good and bad games, I suppose. So, thanks for your question. The next one.
I will add. Sorry, for those people who don't know the context, it was Courtney Walsh, Curtly Ambrose, Franklin Rose, and Rion King who were bowling. Just to give people some context as to who we had to get 99 runs against.
Yes. They were a pretty good bowling attack. They were difficult indeed. The next question from Jihan, Henry, is: I also remember the 1999 World Cup fondly, and I have memories of Zimbabwe beating India and South Africa, as well as Neil Johnson scoring a memorable 100 in a losing effort against Australia. Around that time, though, leading up to the World Cup, I can remember a game in Sharjah where you ran through India's top order, including bouncing out Sachin Tendulkar and then going on to win that match. What are your memories of that World Cup and also the game in Sharjah? That's what Jihan has asked for your third question.
Well, Jihan would do well to read the book, but I won't be obtuse. I'll say the South Africa one-day international at Chelmsford in Essex was by far the best one-dayer I ever played with my teammates. Everything went right. Everyone did their job. We knew what we needed to do. We needed to field well. We batted first and scored just over 200. Neil Johnson scored a decent amount of runs. I think it was like 70 odd or something, and that just gave us enough. And then it rained at the changeover, spiced up the wicket, and we got our wicket with our first ball. Neil Johnson got what was his name? Left-hander Gary Curson, I think it was, caught in the gully or slips, and that set the tone. And then we caught every single thing after that. You know the saying, catches win matches. We caught every single one. We had a run out. Neil Johnson bowled Hansi Cronje very early on in his innings. He nicked off Jacques Callis. Heat Streak, I think, got John T. Rhodes and maybe even Mark Boucher. It was just an amazing match. I caught Sean Pollock out on the boundary at long off. An amazing catch to dismiss Steve Alworthy, I think it was, by Andy Whittle. So just like everyone did their job that day, and that got us into the Super Sixes. The match against India in Sharjah, yes, I got the top order, Ganguly, Dravid, Tendulkar. And I see that Jehan, is that his name? Is it Jehan?
Yes, Jihan, yes.
I noticed that Jehan didn't mention Tendulkar getting his revenge against me in the finals of that tournament in Sharjah.
Yes,
So thanks for that, Jehan. But everyone knows that Tendulkar absolutely obliterated me later on. But
yes, he did.
it was a good tournament. It was a good tournament. I wasn't even meant to be on it, but I did well in that Test match when I got the 5 wickets. Then I got promoted into being a one-day player, and then the rest is history. I did well there, and I did well in the World Cup against India. I took 3 wickets and 4 balls to win the match against India at Leicester, and maybe that's Grace Road, Leicester. Oh, I don't know my grounds. Anyway, long story short, yeah, that was very satisfying. But Tendulkar wasn't there. He'd gone back to pay his respects to his father, who had died mid-tournament. So that was a very sad time for him. But yes, you could argue that I did well against India on maybe 3 or so occasions, and that was certainly one of them in the World Cup. A few months after Tendulkar had humbled me. Yes, I hope that answers the question for Jehan.
Yes, I think that's a pretty good answer there, Henry. I think it was good of Jihan to forget about the final in Sharjah when Tendulkar made the 100. It just made you look good, ripping through the top order of India, which he did. But he soon got his
I'm happy to
revenge.
talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it because it was a privilege as well,
Yes.
to see Sachin at the peak of his powers. And I think the older you get, it's sort of, you start to reflect on your rivals and the people who did well against you. You look at their stats, you look how they performed overall in their careers, and it's very, it's very humbling to have been on the same pitch as him and to have played against him. So it's far from just a negative. It's also, I got a front row seat to see the world's best batsman, arguably, doing his thing,
Yes, definitely. Well, it's nothing better than being in the middle and actually bowling to him. So, yeah, just seeing your reactions on YouTube, watching the highlights, and you just going, "How do you bowl to this guy? He's just carving us."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, very satisfaction answer there, Henry, as always. The last one from Jihan out of the 4 is Zimbabwe was a really exciting up-and-coming team in the 90s. And at times they seriously challenged some of the established cricketing powerhouses. Do you think Zimbabwe has the potential to get back to that competitive level again? Or do you feel the political situation there will continue to hold the team back? I think we touched on a little bit about that in our chat today, Henry, but your thoughts on that?
I think so. I think we need to make some changes, though. So, I think we were competitive. There is an indelible link between, and I'll mention Neil Johnson, which was mentioned in the previous question, but I think there's an indelible link between Neil Johnson and Murray Goodwin being added to our batting lineup. They were imports. So Neil Johnson had a tenuous Zimbabwe link somehow, but he'd grown up in South Africa, played for South Africa A, but he never quite got elevated to play for South Africa. So he was brought in. Murray Goodwin, I think, was born in Zimbabwe. But anyway, he'd grown up in Australia, in Western Australia. And so our success and fortunes changed when those two came into our squad and bolstered our middle order. So it was almost guaranteed that one of those two would be worth 100 or at least a nice 50. You knew you were going to get runs from Andy Flower, probably runs from his brother Grant, maybe runs from Alistair Campbell or Craig Wishart or some of the other players we had at the time, Stuart Carlisle perhaps. And then we had our all-rounders. So then you had Neil Johnson and you had Heath Street. They could come in and score some pretty decent runs. And so suddenly we had this long batting lineup, and we started scoring scores over 400. And some of the time we'd score into the 500s. And this is against teams that had players like Waka Yunus and Shoaib Akhtar and Wasim Akram and we succeeded Let me try and think of the test victories we had. So when I played, we beat India in Harare. We beat Pakistan. I've already mentioned that. We beat them in Pakistan. Did we win any other test matches when I was there? I think it was pretty thin. So I'm struggling to think of any others. But in all the matches that we did succeed in winning against test playing nations, Bangladesh, of course, we did well against Bangladesh on occasions because I think we were slightly stronger than them back in the day. And yeah, cutting a long story short, Jack, if they can replicate a nice long batting order where everyone can bat down to about 8, I think they'll be competitive again. I think their bowling is getting there. They probably need a specialist spinner. Probably need to look at a nice tall leg spinner to raise up. Someone who can genuinely turn the ball and be a genuine wicket taker. And, a bit like in Gaurav and Muzarabani, they found these guys. I don't know what the process was, but they were like, we need some tall guys. Hey, you, don't go play basketball, come play cricket. They kind of need to do that. They need to go on a search to get a good leg spinner or a good off spinner who really turns it. And if they can do that, they've already got 2 good fast bowlers. They need a good spinner. And the last thing I would do is I would, for 1 year, tell all the curators in Zimbabwe to produce wickets for their local first-class fixture, which used to be called the Logan Cup when I was there. I would tell them to produce wickets that test the batsmen because it'll force batsmen to start moving their feet. Zimbabweans generally don't move their feet because they play on these docile wickets. They play from the crease, and they get found out when they play against better teams. So I would say, you know what? Produce wickets that have got a bit of grass in them, and if they don't move their feet, they'll be found out. See how that goes. It's your local state competition anyway. You take the risk. You think, hey, if we lose a lot of wickets, fair enough. But we want our players to get better at facing a moving ball. And you know what? The England players have figured it out. You're not going to swing England bowlers out just because the ball's moving. No, they see it day in, day out, and they get used to it. Eventually, the body, the mind adjusts. And I think that's the problem. The wickets in Zimbabwe are too batter-friendly, so batters don't even have to try. They just play from the crease. This is a problem India used to have. So when they came to Zimbabwe, we prepared a bouncy green top. That first test victory we had against them, I was the beneficiary of that. Because if they didn't move their feet, they were nicking it off and it was carrying to the slips. Right now, I think if Zimbabwe continues to produce flat wickets, unfortunately, it doesn't serve them well because that's not what they're going to get in other countries, man. They're going to go to other countries, and if you don't move your feet, the ball, at least it'll bounce, or at least it'll swing in the air because of the overheads, but it'll certainly seam. England are not going to prepare batter-friendly wickets when Zimbabwe come along. I mean, they sort of did in the Trent Bridge match, and we saw Bennett scoring that magnificent 100 in the Test match, which was the fastest 100 by a Zimbabwean in a Test match. But the wicket offered a lot of bounce, and they're not used to that. So they're not used to a moving ball or a bouncing ball or quick bowling. And so what you have to do is you put yourself under pressure. Maybe they should think of building another national academy. They used to have an academy that got burnt down by a man called Martin Mueller. I don't know if they rebuilt it, but they need to get bowlers facing a bowling machine that's bowling at 160 k's an hour, man. Get used to, because that's what you have to do. You have to put yourself under pressure against the kind of bowling you're going to face against internationals from other countries. Don't think you're a legend because you got a triple century against people who bowl at 125 k's on a flat track.
Yeah, I think that's a really good points you make there, Henry, and thank you, Jihan, for your questions. As always, very informative and very good questions as always. So not a surprise to expect that from you, Jihan. So thanks for your questions there, Jihan. The next question from our next listener, Henry, is from Sarwan. And he says, a couple of questions here for you, which we've probably touched on already. Why Zimbabwe's team performance declined, and is cricket growing among people there. So I think you touched on a little bit about that, Henry.
Yeah, well, the decline came because in 2004, the Zimbabwe cricket uh, made a major push to try and get more indigenous players playing the game. I'm going to leave it at that. You can do your research, you can read my book or listen to it. But it was ultimately the sacking of players like Heath Street and Stuart Carlisle, Grant Flower, a lot of good players that led to Zimbabwe cricket's decline, in my opinion. Other people say it was when no longer in Flower Warble armbands, but I disagree with that. Obviously, I think it was bad administration. And to answer the second part of the question, is cricket growing among the people? I guess it is, but no one wants to support a team that doesn't win often enough to give you something to support. If your team's constantly being hammered, eventually you'll lose your supporters. Only the diehards will remain, which is fair enough. Most countries have fair weather fans, but if they start to win, I think the sport will continue to grow, and the success will breed success and will breed interest. So there you go. Good luck to them. I really wish them well. I've said that a couple of times. I wish Zimbabwe cricket well, but I think they've got to get some things in order. I don't think it's automatic. It's not just let's just keep trying and eventually the ducks will fall in a row. They've got to be intentional and deliberate about many things and changing the team culture, changing the conditions that they play under, and also the way they reward players. Maybe they need to reward them more or less. I'm not sure. I just there's stuff to tweak. It's not my job. I'm an outsider. I live in a country where the game is run professionally, and it's probably the most successful cricket team at the moment in world cricket, Australia. So, and I've got an inside view in one sense because I do commentary with the Sheffield Shield, and I also watch at the grassroots level. How the sport is being raised amongst the youth and the incoming generation. And so Zimbabwe are doing that. They're investing in the development of the game with the young players. Eventually, the players will chase the money because there's lots of money. I mean, imagine telling Australians you can make a lot of money playing cricket. Some of them will go, yeah, I want to play basketball. I want to be a gamer. I want to be this. It's not going to change their lives necessarily like the way it would a Zimbabwean who's coming out of poverty. And you're saying, hey, if you play this sport, you could become a millionaire if you become a T20 specialist. That's eyes wide open. Suddenly, they see a way out of poverty, and they have the incentive to take up the game, and they have role models, they have heroes they can emulate. All of that requires success. And Sikandar Raza is one of the players who's leading the charge there. He's obviously playing franchise cricket around the world. So if we can get 3 or 4 or 5 players like him playing in the game, it would be fantastic. And a little footnote, my last comment on that is Blessing Muzarabani was selected to go and play for the winners of the IPL. I don't even think he bowled a ball, but he was there to lift the trophy up. So the more faces that Zimbabweans see doing well at the international level, playing for Zimbabwe, but playing also around the world, the more visible Zimbabwe role models are, then the growth will be unstoppable.
Yeah. So thank you, Salman, there for your questions. I hope Henry answered it to your satisfaction, which I know he did. And the last one, Henry, before we wrap up today, listener question from Paul. He asks some 3 questions here. He says, where have you been, dude? You're not involved in Zimbabwe cricket. Have you been approached at all? Maybe in a tutoring capacity. So your answer to that, Henry.
Where have I been? I've been in England. I've been in England and I've been in Australia. What have I been doing? I guess I've been here raising a family and just living my life. I keep my head down. Yes, I did a protest a number of years ago, but I don't protest anymore. I've moved on. I'm not involved in Zimbabwe cricket in any capacity. They haven't asked me to either. So that's a very simple question to answer. But let me finish off by saying, as I've already mentioned before, I love Zimbabwe cricket. I follow them. I wish them well. I hope they do well. They deserve good administrators. They deserve success. But they won't approach me because I'm too controversial in their eyes. I don't think I'm controversial in the rest of the world, but in Zimbabwe, they can't handle me. Very few Zimbabweans say anything that's positive about me, which I find a little, strange because it's not like I shot anyone. It's not like I tortured anyone or bullied anyone or took their farm away or took their property. I just wrote a few words and wore a statement to try and ask the powers that be to do better. Other people have done the same thing over the years and they've done it different ways, maybe more tactfully, but maybe it stung a little more because I was the first black player. Maybe they thought I should have kept my mouth shut. I didn't have the platform to do it. How dare I question the esteemed leader of the country? I don't know. But there's a lot of antipathy that comes towards me. And so I'm not surprised they haven't approached me. They did try a few years ago when Ozzy Bute was involved in the sport. I do have to remember this and say, I think it feels like 5, 6, 7 years after I left the country, they wanted me to come back and do commentary, but nah, I was, so it's a funny one. I don't think I'm ready to go back to Zimbabwe yet.
Yeah, I think that's probably a chapter that's
and
closed.
It's mainly,
Henry, I think.
It kind of is, and I live my life for my kids and my wife. It's mainly the fact that even online, very few of my interactions with Zimbabweans are pleasant. They're mainly unpleasant. But I will say this. When I was at Trent Bridge commentating on the Zimbabwe-England match for the BBC Test Match Special, there was nothing but love for all the Zimbabwean fans that were there. They were chanting my name. They were singing my song. It was quite surreal in one sense. Because I've obviously got this very one-sided perception of how people see me. And I've even shared that they think I'm controversial. They think I'm like this or like that. But for the first time in 22 years, I felt genuine warmth and love from Zimbabweans. Like there wasn't one person at the whole stadium who said anything horrible or negative to me. And that gives me pause for thought. It was very touching. It was very humbling. I'm not sure what it means going forward, but it certainly made an impact. That there was such a warm reception for me.
Yeah, I suppose it comes back to what people think and what people perceive you. But in people's eyes, they see you in a different light to what you did with the Black Armband Protest. But also people see you as the cricketer and who gave joy to them when they were watching cricket. And, that's what you do as a sporting sort of personality, I suppose, athlete. You give joy to people and they like that and they reminisce with that. So that's very touching there, Henry. And that's good to know that, you still have some support there, even though you did what was right and you stood up for what you believed in. And, people can respect that. But, as the world is, people have different views and different perceptions when it comes to many things.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I guess, if you think about it, 22 years is a long time. And a lot of people who might have opposed me have died. Mugabe's died. And a lot of people have moved to other countries. A lot of the new generation has come who know nothing about me. They know nothing about what I did. But they might go on YouTube and they might watch me doing well against another country, and suddenly they have a fresh perspective on me, not a perspective that's tainted with political propaganda. How they demonized me after the protest, etc. So anyway, my hope is that the people of Zimbabwe will, continue to support the cricket team, that the cricket team will continue to improve, and that the nation as a whole will prosper. because Zimbabwe's had some really tough times, and I'm hoping that the brighter day, as I wrote about in my song, Our Zimbabwe, is going to come, because that's where Zimbabwe belongs.
Absolutely. And thanks to everyone who sent in their questions to Henry. Really good questions, and Henry gave some really good answers, as I would have expected from him, as he's done throughout this chat with me today. So thank you for that, Henry, answering some of our questions from our faithful listeners of the Dibbly Dobbly podcast, and I hope they were answered to Henry's best of his ability. Well, Henry, thank you for joining me today for this cricket discussion. I've enjoyed it immensely and learned so much from our chat today. It's been a bit of a marathon. It's like a test match, Henry. First session, second session, third session.
It is. It's supposed to be an hour, mate. And it's supposed to be an hour and it's gone for 2, but that's all right. I enjoy talking to you, Jack. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, that's what it's about, having a good chat about cricket and loving the game that we all love very much. And I'm sure everyone listening and watching would have gained a lot, would have learned something new about you as well, which is what it's all about. So, Henry, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they do that? If they want to make contact or seek out,
mate, I don't know. I've got so many places. I think possibly the best place is on Facebook. So on Facebook, you can follow me or you can become friends. I wouldn't suggest you try and become my friend because I've just got so many friends. It's like oversubscribed. You can only have like 5,000.
Really?
But I've got 10,000 followers at the moment, and yeah, if they send me a direct message there's no guarantee I'll reply, but I'm on Facebook enough that in my messenger I'll be able to say good day. But hopefully it's not just to say, hey Henry, I want to talk to you about that match, and yeah. I don't generally respond to that sort of thing, but I try to reply. I try to reply to most people. Yeah. So I reckon Facebook, Twitter or X, I hardly go on, and also Instagram. It's kind of like once in a while. So Facebook's the best.
Yeah. We'll leave links to those in the description of this episode so people can, make connections there, Henry, and also a link to your book, of course. We've got to plug the book, Blood, Sweat and Treason. You can either listen to it or, get the physical copy. So tell us a little bit about the book, Henry, and where can people seek that out if they want to read about your story?
Well, mate, the hard copy book is out of print, so if you get it elsewhere, it's probably like a bootleg copy or something. I honestly don't know how they can get a hard copy. But the hard copy is quite unique because it's got the original sort of draft of the audiobook. The audiobook's about 50,000 words longer, so there's a lot more flesh in it. It's a better story, in my opinion. It's in my voice.
I certainly noticed when I was listening to it. Sorry, Henry, to cut you off, but when I was listening to the book, it sounded like that, as you said there, like a bit more of a story, and you can really
because when I started the audiobook, I just realized there was so much missing that I normally tell in my everyday sort of presentations, and I thought, I've got to fix that. So there is that. You can probably still find it on like eBay. People read it and then they're like, it's got a few typos and spelling mistakes and factual errors as well, the printed copy. So it's probably like a collector's item just for that, like bad grammar. But I'll say this. The best way to support me, really, if you want to, and again, I'm not plugging it big time, but if you want to, is to actually go on Audible and buy a copy, or Spotify and buy a copy, rather than streaming it. Because when you stream, I just get nothing for it. But if you're like, buy it, then I get like, $15 or something. But if you stream the whole thing, I hardly get anything. So it's in the best way you can say is to support me is to do that. I'm not like you. I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. I just I sell my book, mate, and hope that people support me that way. So Yeah, that's it, mate. And it tells you all of my life from childbirth all the way through to about 2015. The second chapter is yet to come. Blood, Sweat, and Treason 2 or something like that. I don't know. But there may be a sequel before I die. So there you go.
Well, let's hope you have a few more years left, Henry. Yeah, many more years to give and to make people.
Well, I hope so, mate. I hope so. I'm giving my all to my music now. So I've got a YouTube channel as well. It's called Henry Olonga Official. I'll be uploading music going forward now. So appreciate anyone subscribing there as well. So anyway, thanks for your time, mate. And good luck with the podcast. And let me know how it goes.
Well, thank you, Henry. And before we go, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Most of the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you, Henry, for joining me today for today's cricket discussion. I hope all of you watching or listening to this cricket discussion with Henry learnt a lot more about Henry, his cricketing and life journey. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.